Hello, it's Will again, back at it with another video. Fantastic to see all of you today. If you've never been here, I'm Will. I'm just a guy from the UK who likes to reflect on his feelings, likes to ask questions, likes to try and dig a bit deeper, really get to the core of things. So in these videos, you can expect me to just be kind of me. Put me authentically on the table and talk to you and hope that might prompt some reflection for yourself. Who knows? But I'm going to be me regardless. I'm Will and it's lovely to have you. So today the question I'm going to reflect on is, what outcomes can we not accept when we consider being authentic? What does that highlight about our vulnerabilities? So I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I think a big part of this question for me is like, what kind of relational shockwaves am I concerned about generating when I am authentic, right? I think this comes from, I think a lot of how my early relationships developed. I think this comes from me feeling in the earlier parts of my life that I had to facilitate other people, right? I had to support other people. I had to make sure their vibes were good and I had to match their vibes, right? It wasn't really about my vibes so much when I was younger, right? And I think a lot of resentment came up for me because of that, because I was one of three with a half brother, and my older brother caused problems in the family. He was always the point of contention and focus because of the things he was doing. It was rousing my mother. And then my sister, she was the only girl, so she also got a certain amount of kind of attention too, which is understandable, I think. I think I really felt like I faded into the background, right? And I think now, like, I kind of like fading into the background in parts, right? I like being comfortable, sitting back, doing my own thing, taking care of myself. I think a lot of my independence kind of comes from that, where I think maybe historically I've tried to have my needs met or be understood by kind of other people around me, and that's not really happened, which is like sad as I reflect on that. But I think that gets in the way of me being authentic, because now I'm kind of like, I don't need necessarily, I don't feel I need to share, and that's like sometimes wrong, because sometimes I do need to share. It's why I have therapy. It's why I do mental health stuff. It's why I'm training to be a mental health counselor, because I guess I learned, when you don't get your needs met, you just have to like work with what you've got, right? And I think for me, what I had was like video games, myself. I had to just like regulate my own feelings by myself. And I was really bad at that when I was especially a younger person, teenager. I've always felt like I've had extreme, intense emotions. And I think this adds to the challenge of being authentic, because I feel I've had intense emotions I've wanted to express. Those have not been like really heard or understood. So I was kind of felt like a downward spiral of shame and guilt for having these intense feelings. And I remember for a long time thinking, man, if I could just like not have feelings, that would be great. So I think this like led to my tendency to being really interested in like logical debates. I don't really feel like I was intelligent enough to go full logic. But I feel I gravitate towards people that I felt were logical at the time, because then I could learn how to be more like that and less ravaged by my own feelings. It's interesting now that it's been like an inversion of that. So now I'm a lot more interested and captivated and attracted to people that are more emotionally engaged. Like, I enjoy being around them more. I get a lot more out of those types of people. Relationally, I would say, because I guess I found people who really rely overly on logic, in my experience, often ignore kind of how important the subjective is, the emotional connection, having emotions present in the room, right? So I'm more interested in that camp of people now, you might call it. But I feel there is kind of a comfort with people that are like overly logical, I guess I feel. I guess it's having me reflect a little more on like how I build relationships, right? Like how I'm being authentic. And what outcomes I can't accept when I'm being authentic. And I guess maybe an outcome I can't accept is sharing really how I feel and that being received really badly. Either outright rejection, somebody gaslighting me or frustrating me by like not hearing or understanding where I'm at. And I guess it's interesting, this not accepting part of the question, because I feel historically I couldn't accept that. And in recent years, I really try to just lean into what I can't accept. So I've like told people, I told my parents how I feel about them. I've told, to the detriment of some of those relationships. I've been a lot more authentic, and I think this highlights maybe a lot of the arc that I'm on and trying to be on personally. And I feel being authentic is really important for me, because I think there were so many instances I couldn't accept, so many situations where I was trying to be anyone but myself. And I think ultimately, trigger warning and all that, like it led me to a really dark place. It led me to, I would unfortunately say, suicide attempts, where I feel fundamentally my needs just didn't matter. And now I'm in a place where it's like the opposite of that. But I guess I feel now I'm still really sensitive to feeling disregarded. I think this really came up for me in therapy. When I had therapy, I'm still having therapy, but one of the hurdles I felt initially with therapy was that the session would end at the 50-minute mark, right? And like, that's normal, that's fine. But for me, at the time initially, I felt like abandoned. And I think this was because it was finally a place where like my needs kind of mattered a bit more. And it was like, actually, I was getting some time in the sun for once, which I think I was like desperate for. And now, like, time is happening. I can't stop that. But I think that led to me being like, like a man in the desert, desperate for some water, and he's finally got a drink. And now he's out of water and he's desperate for a drink again. And he doesn't want the drink he's drinking to end. And for me, I think as I kind of better understood how to take care of my emotional needs, and also like went into that a bit heads first of like, I don't want this session to end right now, because when I leave this room, nobody's going to care about me anymore. And I think being authentic about that in therapy really helped me, right? So I think the rejection that I'm concerned about historically, and then I'm still a little bit concerned about rejection every now and then now, but I think I feel that signal and I try and lean into it, right? So I go, this is how I feel, this is what I'm about. And maybe there are like aspects, certainly aspects now that I still struggle to be authentic with. But I'm getting better at it. And I guess, to back in the direction of like how that highlights my vulnerabilities, I've been kind of talking about that, right? That like I feel my vulnerabilities are exposed more when I'm like finally having those needs met, right? I think a lot of my arc has been, well, my needs don't matter, so push down all the needs and then we're fine, right? We can like cope. But when I get some of my needs met, it kind of highlights maybe how like dehydrated I was. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever felt this, but like if you don't eat for a very long time, you're like super hungry. Like you can get to a certain point where you don't feel hunger anymore, right? Because like hunger, in my experience anyway, is like a temporary signal. So when you ride that wave out and you're used to not eating, you don't really miss it. But when you do finally, after not eating for a long time, you realize, I was missing this. That's like, I guess in my context, a bit of a sad moment, right? Because I'm like, wow, I just don't get enough to eat. And I guess for me, it highlights the loss there and the vulnerability that I feel. And I guess now I feel like I can lean a lot more into that vulnerability and feel the full color of that emotion. And I think that's so cool. I'm so proud of young me for taking the step, shooting to have my needs met. And now I really feel like I'm in a position where a lot of the work with addressing my authentic needs comes with like how I address the unknown, the other, the people I don't know. The people I do know, I feel like I'm getting a lot better at being like really authentic with. But the people I don't know, like there's a challenge, there's a barrier there, there's like a politeness. I don't know if it's a cultural thing in the broader sense of my Britishness, or it's more social nicety that's ironed into me. It's just like a general person nicety thing. I don't know. Or it's part of my personality to be very agreeable with people I don't know. But it's different in different contexts. Like at work, I think where it's more important for me to be more authentic. Like I can certainly be more authentic with people I don't know well. But it's, I guess, just like out and about the world. It's like the context, right? I guess if I'm like on the street and I bump into somebody and they're like, what are you doing? What are you all about? I'm like, I'm just like a guy, right? Like I'm a guy. I guess I'm trying to like over perceive and over understand like the other person's understanding of the world and the context and everything. And I guess at work, like I know they come in with a certain understanding of some of the ideas I'm gonna like bring up, and they kind of want to do some work on themselves and they want to understand things, right? So I kind of know that going in. Yeah, relationships are tricky. Being authentic's hard. But I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. I've been Will. You've been wonderful. Take care. And have a good day.